is the one of whom I'm fond. And the poem is called Explorer. You are always in a red canoe. The blue earth river runs under you, and mostly you let the slow current do the work. You are familiar in this landscape. A blue heron gripping the tip of a charred tree regards you without surprise. You lean forward, relaxed, alert, half hoping, holding the pale wooden oar across your knees, always one ear listening for rapids, always one eye watching for snags. You think, I imagine, of John Wesley Powell, the one-armed explorer who faced down the Colorado's Grand Canyon reaches with 5 men, 2 boats, and a large supply of useless ammunition. The rapids nearly killed them all, but didn't. They survived, drenched and awestruck, blinking up at the way the setting sun turned the canyon walls a shade of rose so gentle they immediately forgot they didn't know what lay ahead. Powell recorded everything dutifully in a journal he kept in a watertight box, and it's this journal you see in your own handwriting by firelit light. But for you, no red canyons, no rapids. For you, a tame river with grassy shores in rural Minnesota. You wanted it otherwise, explorer. I know. You felt 100 years too late, and everywhere's been mapped or fenced. And even John Wesley Powell finally returned to a city of known quantities. In your red canoe, you pass the mouth of the Missouri, and you almost dip your oar into the water, the sound it would make, a kiss, a sigh, a kiss. You almost launch yourself into larger streams, and then don't, passing around the bend on the current and going on a little farther where there's an eddy you know about and some shade, and where you think you'll stop a while and maybe have some lunch. This is called Storm Warning. Our bodies are inadequate shelter, lean-tos and typhoons. Our hearts need so much more than this scant housing, the cage of porous bone, the thin blanket of skin. Every single storm rocks the heart as if it had been left exposed to the elements, struck by lightning, battered by wind, drowning again and again in whatever sediment rushes past, the familiar surge of water closing in, the sinking down. Some days there is no storm, but there is still no safety, no shelter from the sun. It shines warm, and without warning, the burn sets in, sneaks in, and blisters us before we realize it. The heart knows no safe place for rest, trapped as it is in a body it is not always pleased to call home. But what to do? Arthur cloaked his knights in armor, and still they carried their wounded mortal hearts within themselves, days passing heavily in downpourings of rain and streaks of lightning. Each moment, for us, threatens another squall, or the promise of sunlight. The weather is unpredictable, but the heart has never learned this. What the heart has learned is that sometimes in the darkness, in the warmth between storms, the stars come out, and for a moment, everything is perfect. This is called Nomad Heart, and I wrote this poem and then emailed it to a person, and that was how I broke up with him. I'm not proud of that, but there it is. It was cold. It was cold. I have completely blocked that from memory. So, Nomad Heart. You camp where there is water, foliage, enough food to replenish supplies for the next long, dry walk through the desert. You pitch your tent, spread your blankets, call this place home. Camel bells ring almost inaudibly. You can sleep. Memory falls into the hidden well between rocks. You think about color, blue, green, a certain shade of yellow, how these colors mean little in a desert you've learned to both dread and crave. You decide red is a color only for Valentine's and blood. Days pass, bells ring, sand blows against the tent, whispering coded messages. You find yourself wishing for open spaces, not the stubborn shelter with its dense ceiling of branches. It is time to move on. The walk begins by night. You leave into the same desert out of which you came. But it is not the place you knew, and maps are useless. All the dunes have changed since you left your last oasis. North is not north. East has become a game the wind plays. You try to read the stars, but you've forgotten the constellations. The sky spills only random light. Every star has become a stranger. So I think that was like boyfriend number 3, this boyfriend number 4. So, more or less. And this is called Homage. You were my college education, and I am sure now this pleases you. You were never modest. Think of the way you loved to argue, your intelligence honing itself sharper. Think of the way you admired yourself in the mirror, your body like some Greek statue, my boy god, my nemesis, beautiful and golden. Those nights we spent together, each muscle in your body flinched itself to sleep against mine. You slept reluctantly, not wanting to let yourself down into the misty canals of dreaming. And I, acolyte to silence, would keep watch, lay my hand against the sharp bone of your cheek, breathe as you breathe, the same uneasy cadence. You taught me how to shoot. When you handed me the gun, I took it, I held it and balanced it. I didn't know it would be so heavy, didn't know the gravity of it would feel so much like gravity. I wanted to point the gun at you, my old love. For just a moment, I wanted to place the barrel end against the white of your shirt, just so, between the 2 coins of your nipples. I wanted to leave a mark there, a capital O, something for you to remember me by. You instructed me in the fine art of drinking single malt scotch from a tiny glass, the way to throw the whole thing back like a bullet down the throat, and the way to sip like chaste kissing. The name Glenfiddich still reminds me of you, and the time you kissed me in the alley behind the bar, wanting to taste whiskey on my tongue, your hand on my throat, as if I were a bottle. And if I mention marijuana, smoking in that wheat field in Germany, am I bringing back memories of which you'd rather not think? Good. Then let's remember the way the wind bent over in the wind, the wheat bent over in the wind like ballet dancers, and the way we passed the joint back and forth between us as if we still liked each other. You were so sick of me by then, but too polite to say so and too transparent to hide it, and I did not know how to make a graceful exit. My professor of heat, it's been years since we've spoken, years since those dusks we sat on your patio, bats careening out of the cypress trees, the sound of them loud between us, their tiny, bearded faces almost more human-looking than our own. Years, and sometimes you still haunt the dank and weird bat cave behind my breastbone. Stones. Boys throw stones into water. Creek, bucket, lake, it doesn't matter. Any body of water will do. They hunt for the heaviest stones, the ones they need both hands to lift, the ones that, once heaved away, fall close to the edge as if coming back for more. They hunt for the thinnest stones, the ones easiest to wink across the surface, to skip 1, 2, 3 on the water before falling through the center of the game and disappearing. And if there are no stones, if the shore is just grass or sand, or if there are just no stones to be found anywhere, a handful of pebbles will more than suffice, tossed all in at once like buckshot, and falling through the surface with small sounds. Boys choose their stones carefully, but it is not really the stones that matter. It is the way they enter the water. It is the way that after they enter the water, everything, even the shape of the air, is changed. So things get better after a while. And this poem is called He Says He Likes to See Her Happy. The word happy reminds her today of nickels, a whole handful of them, funny, thick coins, fat coins, the coolness of them, the heaviness. A handful of nickels weighs more, she thinks, than a handful of quarters. It does not matter that she does not know this for sure. What she knows is that nickels sound to her at this moment like happiness, not for their worth, but for something else. She thinks of their taste, imagines the feel of a nickel on her tongue, imagines the chill metallic of it, the way the first quickening thrill turns bitter, bites at the taste buds. The taste of it is the same as the smell of warm air right before rain. She closes her eyes and imagines the clink of the nickel against her teeth. She likes the way the bitterness softens, becomes familiar and wanted as part of the whole, as Jefferson's somber profile. Today, nickels remind her of the word happy. Maybe it is simply the sound they make as she drops them. They are everything she has, one by one, into his open hands. And I married him, so it turned out okay. Yeah. The soul, feeling expansive, masquerades as a butterfly. Attaching the wings is the easy part. A dab of glue here and stretch. See how the light comes through, pinks the air, drops a sudden pattern on the sidewalk. Next, the furred mask, the antennae like breathy threads, and adjusting them just so in a mirror made of puddle and sky. The soul anticipates flight as if it were not imagining. Tastes the air, tests the wind, flutters the veined wings, feels the small whir in the center of itself, that engine of yen and excitement. The daylight shifts and shifts back, breath and magic and breath, a world gone keen with glint and shine. The air tastes like lemon and the secret mouths of penstemon. The soul scans the whole wide view, lifts the costume wings, and jumps, both feet at once, into a horizon as open as the beginning of a story. That was the first poem I wrote after my daughter was born, and so that's a whole different kind of love. And ending on yet another different kind of love, my parents just celebrated their 50th anniversary, and it was really cool. I know, it's amazing. It's amazing. Nobody thought they would last that long. But there they are. And my dad unfortunately suffers from dementia now, so, we had this big party, and my dad was there, and he was really happy to be the center of attention, and he didn't know why we were having this party, but he's happy. And, he mixes me up with my sister and doesn't know any of the grandkids' names, but he knows my mom. He knows that she is his one and only. And it's pretty cool. So this is a poem called Father-Daughter Dance, about dealing with his illness. And it's a ghazal, which is a kind of poem that is an Arabic kind of poem, and it has some repetitions at the ends of lines. It's a father-daughter dance, and this will be my last poem. Once he tried to teach me how to use a slide rule, but I never learned, and now he has forgotten, this stricken father. The television replaces any need for conversation, so now we speak police drama and sitcom, me and my father. He wants to go to the hardware store, asks where the wood is. Once there, he knows he wants to build, but can't remember what. This man, who is my father. Another slow walk to the car, cane in one hand, my wrist in the other. I will feel his grip for hours after, this ache from my father. In the long afternoon, are you thinking of what might have been? A different decision, maybe? A little less emotion, Father? We do not look at each other when I clean his dentures, soak them, brush them, hand them back. I do not look at the once and future face of my father. At 3 in the morning, he coughs. He murmurs in his sleep. Across the hall, I'm awake, listening to this man of diminishing returns, my father. And what to do with my emotions? Stitch up, button down this anger, love, pity, this compassion, this grief by seconds and inches, all for my wayward father? No wish, no prayer, no miracle, no abracadabra magic will replace this gray man with the man who used to be my father. Dad, you aren't sure who I am. Call me by other names, but some things are unchanging, and I am, flailingly and unfailingly, your daughter. Thank Nate and Summer for having me here today. It's really, really nice. I loved it, even though it's really, really cold. And thank you, all of you guys, for being here. I just wanted to mention that I'm also one of the founding members of the Modesto Stanislaus Poetry Center, which is a pretty new entity in town. And the purpose of the Poetry Center is to a short version of our mission statement, because we're trying hard to be a nonprofit, is that we want to promote poetry throughout Stanislaus County and promote Stanislaus County through poetry. Because as you know, our county does not always get the best attention in the media and the rest of the world. And we need to change that, because as demonstrated here tonight, there's a ton of great stuff going on. And we need to let other people know that. We have a lot of poetry, we have a lot of music, we have a lot of visual art. We are not the wasteland that people say in the Bay Area might think we are. So we have to tell them this, and that's what one of the things the Poetry Center does, besides a lot of community outreach with things like community hospice and schools in the area and boys and girls clubs and things like that. So we would love to have you join us. We are a membership organization, and we do have student memberships. So there are flyers over on the table. That's Gary right there, and he has flyers. Yay! And even if you just want to take one and think about it, that would be cool. The more the merrier, and you don't have to sign up and volunteer. You can just sign up and join us periodically. So that's it. I will now get off my soapbox. So thank you so much.